Hey, that's my taco. He's my dog Taco too. So, hey, enough.
Oh, yes. Thanks for being a guest on the podcast, Taco. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Local Marketing Lab, where you get real-world insights from industry pros to help you drive local revenue and local growth. This podcast is brought to you by Evocalize, digital marketing tools powered by local data that automatically work where and when your locations need it most. Learn more at evocalize.com. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Local Marketing Lab. Joining us in the lab today, we have a guest with over 20 years of experience in the restaurant industry. He's a two-time new dad and loves In-N-Out fries. He's the National Advisory Director at Zelnick & Company. He's the host of Close Monday podcast and the Commercial Real Estate School podcast. TikTok knows him as Mr. Restaurants, but the rest of the world knows him as his legal name, Kyle Inserra. Thank you for joining us in the lab, my friend.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we can make it happen.
Congrats on the new little one.
Yeah, hopefully you don't hear him during this show. I think he went for a walk. So yeah, it would be a good time to not have him cry. But yeah, thank you.
Hey, if he's already doing his thing and going for a walk, then we shouldn't have an issue.
Yeah, he's got a little help.
Assuming he went by himself. Yeah.
Hopefully it's a go-getter like that.
Well, cool. Well, appreciate you jumping on. Kyle, one of the things that I just thought it would be good to kind of start off with, you started your career on Wall Street. You hung up your suit to become a chef for 8 years and then kind of shifted into the commercial real estate side of the restaurant industry. I'd love to hear a little bit more about your journey and kind of what got you to where you are. Yeah,
that's kind of crazy. When we were talking before this or back and forth on email, I was like, holy shit, this is kind of crazy. But yeah, I was really after 9/11. I'd gone to 4-year college, got my degree in business economics, and I was like, did what everybody from my college did. They went to Wall Street, they went to law school, they went to med school. So I went to Wall Street, and right after 9/11, I was like, okay, I don't want to, this was after the kind of like bull run of the 2000s, and things were kind of started to taper off anyway. And I was like, okay, that's it. I'm not going to, die in this city doing what I'm doing now, which is cold calling people, trying to sell stocks that I don't really know anything about. So I went downstairs that day and I called my dad, said, hey, I'm enrolling in culinary school. And that's kind of where it all started.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. So you went to culinary school and became a chef for 8 years?
Yeah, I was a chef, 2003 to 2002 to about 2016. Wasn't do for one doing chef stuff, but for a long time it was the real deal. Back of the house guy for a long time. That's right.
And then what kind of brought you from that role to want to get then into the real estate side of things?
Yeah, I just got burnt out. And it was kind of like we weren't growing as a concept. I was butting heads with my partners, and it was like, all right, I got to figure out something else to do. I had a family now. And I was like, same kind of feeling. I don't want to do this anymore. We're not growing. We're not expanding. And then, I didn't want to. I needed a way to leverage the experience that I had into something else. And then the woman who helped me with some real estate stuff for our restaurant concepts, she specialized in restaurant real estate. So I reached out to her and was fortunate to get a job with her right after I left the partnership.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting run. I love the depth and kind of, I guess, broad range of your experience, both, you said in back of house and then all the way through the business side of things and into the commercial real estate side. Given your depth of experience and breadth, really, what are some things that you think are the most important aspects of local marketing?
And, we started marketing, like traditional marketing with the restaurant in 2008. We hired a PR agency. We did all that stuff, very expensive. And at the time, Facebook was the thing. And then Facebook pages, I don't even think existed when we first started. But I've always found out, and kind of, it's a big conversation now, but being authentic and kind of telling a story, always more engaging than sort of just putting out, pictures at the time of the restaurant, putting out pictures of the food, or with real estate now, just putting out pictures of the listing. Authenticity seems to resonate the most. And we found that even then, again, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We were posting pictures of ourselves, and it over time it developed into just really being a way to connect with the community aside from the four walls of the restaurant, which obviously is part of the conversation now in all the industries. But yeah, I think these digital connections, I mean, you and I mean, Sean and I, a lot of people that chip close, and really anybody that I have met in both these industries over the last couple of years have been digital first. So, but I think we've always connected on that authentic piece.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is crazy how quickly you can kind of accelerate your success and your network with the access through digital channels. You know, like LinkedIn is the one where we met through, and I met Sean through, and most of the connections that I make digitally are through LinkedIn. It's just where professionals all go. They all want to succeed, connect, network. You know, it's incredible.
It's funny because like these guests that I've had on the show are talking about marketing. You know, we talk about marketing on both Close Monday and on CRE School. And somebody said the other day that they apply the late night principle to when they're advising their clients on marketing. And it was like, hey, you know, it's kind of like when somebody from a record from an artist, right? They produce a new album and the label wants them on all the late night shows. They talk about everything. Mm-hmm. Right? They talk about, oh, how's your wife? How's your kids? This, that, and the other thing. They got them doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then at the end, they're like, oh, by the way, you have a new album coming out. It's all that stuff that people can connect to with them and be like, wow, now I really feel like I know. You know, Justin Timberlake was the example that my guest used. So, but yeah, it's and it is really all about how to find ways to connect with people. And it's definitely happening digitally every day.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've spoken with Jeremy Julian a few episodes back, and he was talking about just knowing your audience and knowing what resonates with them, communicating to them in a way that resonates, delivering the content in a way that they like to engage with. If you don't know your audience and you're not kind of at least focused on a certain audience, you try to be all things to all people, don't resonate with anyone, come off as inauthentic, and you're just not successful from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah, I've experienced it. I've seen it in the commercial real estate side, and it's gotten so much better over the last couple of years. But, you know, if you're just sitting there talking facts to people, like a restaurant is located here and we serve this type of food, you're just spewing facts, right? I could find that on your website or in print. Same with commercial real estate. But yeah, if you can connect to them on some other level, I think that's really the key to unlocking some of that local marketing.
Well, speaking of unlocking, you know, local marketing, what are some things that you've seen or tried, or maybe some of your clients have done lately that you think has worked from a local marketing standpoint?
You know, I think what always, regardless of the industry, we've kind of been trained to this, but that's sort of like behind the scenes vibe. Like, I'm doing this and then showing why. One of the concepts that I really look at a lot as a great example of this is a bagel shop in Hoboken, and they do a lot of behind the scenes stuff. And there's a bunch of other restaurants, Frank Pepe's, they do some behind the scenes stuff. I think that's kind of thing is really what's working well. And I think it's always going to be something that you can just flip on the camera and do. It sounds weird because everybody thinks about how they have to be so creative and they have to be, that imposter syndrome stuff. But the reality is, if you just show what you're doing, it's a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah. It's easy to create the content. You have your phone at your fingertips. We had the same conversation with Sean. It's like, you know, all you have to do is just take out your phone, start recording. It doesn't matter what you're working on, what the process is. Like, people love seeing processes. My kids will sit down in front of the TV and watch, you know, stirring beads into like clay or like just mixing things. I'm like, dude, what are you guys watching? Yeah. But these videos all have millions and millions of views. It's insane, but also pretty incredible. People just want to see how things are done.
Yeah. And they want to see like how, you know, that you struggled with something, that it's not this like infallible figure out there preaching from like a soapbox and just telling them everything that they should be doing. You know, I think it's weird because you don't feel like it's that interesting, right? But then it goes back to what you said before, know your audience. And like, I could sit there and ramble on about why a letter of intent is so important, and brokers across the country will roll their eyes, but I'm not talking to them, right? I don't give a crap what they think. I want my clients or future clients to understand why it's important to submit an LOI for a serious amount of space. So I think sometimes it's tough to get into that and like work that muscle out, but you only get good by doing it.
Yeah. And the better you get, the more impactful you are, because you're able to target your efforts and do things that are actually meaningful and generate results.
And value, right? Like that's what people want. They want to learn something from you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What are some things that, so for our listeners today that might be struggling from a local marketing standpoint or from local growth standpoint, what are some things that you would suggest that they do today or this week where they could start getting out of that hole and start seeing some results?
Yeah, so I've said this a bunch of times, and maybe it's like, it may seem like commonplace now, and it may seem difficult to some people, but I think one of the best things you can do is just grab your phone and be like, hey, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but I'm going to give this a shot. I'm Kyle from Close Monday, and I'm going to like try to make it happen for you guys. And please let me know. And I think that authenticity, like just kind of that humility of like, I've never done this before. Everyone's telling me I got to do it to grow my brand. And there's a guy that I'm trying to think about. He has a candle company in the city, and he does that. But he's blown up since, but his content is so matter of fact. And he's just like, all right, I'm going to tell you how I make these great candles, and hundreds of thousands of followers. So I think starting there, because if I think that one thing too that has happened is people can sniff out the BS, right? So like if it's scripted or if it's too like pitchy, they're gonna kind of like scroll away. But I think that authenticity and showing your vulnerable side and then what you're going through is really, really, really part of the magic.
So from an authenticity standpoint, that's why I'm not afraid to just record my podcast from the closet. With my bare tan walls.
That's it, man.
Although hopefully I'll have a background soon. I've just bought a green screen, so we'll see how that goes.
But that's it's what you get to be known for. And I think it's nobody like started in this game doing what we're trying to do these podcasts. I didn't know how to hook up one. I didn't even know what this thing is called, that the mic is connected to. It took me so many like bad pieces of equipment to end up here. So yeah, I think everyone can appreciate that.
Literally the part that's probably been edited out of this episode is me just losing my audio and us fumbling to get it back. So yeah, it happens. Like, I'm not a pro, like you're a pro, but most people aren't. They just get in and just get started, just start doing something.
Made me feel better about that was somebody's like, go back and watch Joe Rogan's first podcast. And I think it was it's like in a backyard and they're all like drinking beers and it's like this dingy, and maybe like in Brooklyn, it's just really crappy. So I was like, okay, yeah, there's upside there somewhere.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it's funny because I always, my kids, I've got 2 teenagers and they just roll their eyes. Like we'll be driving and I'll put the podcast on like I'm a big deal. We've got at this point at the time of recording, we've got like 5 or 6 episodes. And they're like, Dad, you're like, come on, Dad, and I'm like, guys, I'm kind of a big deal. Like I have a standalone microphone.
Yeah, you see these headphones? Hello, what do you think? Yeah, my daughter. Well, that's the whole reason I got on TikTok. Was to screw with her, because at the time it was just in general, just all right, you think you're cool on TikTok? And we were all penned up in the quarantine. I'm like, let's do this. So now she's still rolls her eyes, but I can just give her a wink back. But yeah, it's funny how that works.
Hilarious. Yeah, I mean, your TikTok is it does really well, and you have like some really good nuggets on there. Thank you. I think it's engaging, it's entertaining, funny. There's some stuff that's tips and trick type of stuff. Like it's good content.
It's what I found is that I forget when it happened, but there was that switch of like people actually talking to the camera, and it wasn't just doing like pointing at things on the screen. And when that happened, it's just I think it became, and people love to talk. I mean, you gotta have thick skin to be on TikTok, but if you put it out there, you get the engagement. That's what you want.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah, I've seen you have some pretty thick skin too. I've seen some episodes of the RIF show that you guys would do, and Sean would just rail on you.
It was
for me, it was hilarious. It was like I grew up in Buffalo area, so Western New York, but it reminded me of just growing up and how we all would just treat each other.
Yeah. Right. That's the thing. Those are your real friends, right?
Yeah.
The ones that can give
Anyways,
you shit like that. Yeah.
that's right. That's right. All right. So what would you, or who would you like to shout out for doing something really cool, really engaging, interesting from a local marketing standpoint?
Local marketing standpoint, man, I already shouted out Old Bagel. They're a big one. I like what I'm seeing in some of these like QSR concepts. Small group out of, I think they have like, not so small, maybe they have 6 or 8 units, Fly the Coop. They're a chicken concept. Joe, I've had on my podcast, super cool guy. But you get a feel for the brand, Tony and Pete's, another dude who was a guest. Justin was on my show from Tony and Pete's out in Toledo. Great branding, great storytelling. They made the decision, or I forget how they came across some sort of videographer and graphic designer who really helped create their brand. But, I think ultimately it's figuring out now, like in your startup costs for restaurants, at least, right? It's like where you're going to spend your money. I think when it's all green pieces of paper, I think a lot of that's got to be dedicated to, or a significant portion got to be dedicated to building your brand, all your touch points in the 4 walls of the restaurant, but your digital stuff too. So your logos, how you communicate, there's a lot of that stuff, and there are people out there now to help, and it's an expense. Yeah, of course. Right. So you don't do it. Somebody else got to do it. So you got to pay for it. But I think these restaurants that are getting it in terms of, this is my brand, this is how I talk, and they're staying authentic, I think they're the ones having the most success. So I would definitely say Old Bagel, Tony and Pete's, and I forget the one I said. But yeah, Frank Pepe's is another one. They're starting to catch on. Like, you're seeing it more and more. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I think the one thing I've learned too, with regards to like creating the content, creating the long form content, leveraging tools. There's a lot of AI tools right now that can help you just kind of piece it up and have a bunch more derivative pieces of content to help kind of nurture folks along and just get more and more engagement.
Yeah, I mean, the AI stuff is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. I love playing with it, but it's been, seems like it's changing every day. And I love that type of stuff. And some people take advantage.
Yeah, and if you're small and if you're scrappy, you can leverage those tools, and it seems like you have a team. There's a tool we use called Capshow, and you just upload your video. It cranks out a blog post. It cranks out social posts. It cranks out video snippets, like all sorts of stuff that would typically take somebody hours to do. It just cranks it out for you, and then you're kind of off to the races. So that's one thing that you could do if you're a small company to kind of get started today. And
yeah, I think that's another thing though. Like with your local, there's a lot of technology we use on the real estate side, and I don't know how they figure this out, but one of the things that they include, and it's something that we provide to our clients, is basically based on the market that they're in. So let's say you're in Toledo, Ohio, and you want to, like, your clients looking at this section of the market. You can run a report that says, how do people in this section of the market like to receive their marketing? So it'll break it down, and it'll say like, they like news. They have like an index, and it'll say like newspapers, social media. They rank social media separately. So LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram are all, indexed, so that when you hit the market and you're ready to open, you can start to push out content on those platforms. The idea being that you're going to hit them where they're even more so, more highly targeted. So, and that type of stuff. And then you layer in the AI, it's really kind of making things pretty interesting.
Let me ask you this. So you're in commercial real estate. Mm-hmm. The platforms that you use, do they differ much? Do you focus more on LinkedIn because you're marketing to folks that are kind of in the corporate world, or you still on TikTok on the commercial side? I know you have a huge following there in restaurants.
It's interesting because I think the white space is where they're not, right? Like, so you can do TikTok content, commercial real estate TikTok content, and seemingly, or it seems like they're not there. But I can't tell you how many times I have gotten a message about a potential listing they want me to get in front of one of my clients. Just sort of like, I want to, pick your brain conversation, prospects who have seen a TikTok video but have reached out on LinkedIn. So it's a really interesting dynamic. They don't feel comfortable DMing, like they don't want to see whatever, because so many people set up accounts. I'm just, keeping an eye on my kid, but then it's so addicting, right? And Instagram, same dynamic too. Instagram's a little bit different now, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's interesting. So people do engage with your content off channel, and then they come into LinkedIn to reach out to you to engage with you.
It's happened a lot. Yeah. Pretty weird.
Yeah. Very interesting. Yeah. Well, cool. We went through some of your facts a little earlier. You just had a new kiddo. You love In-N-Out fries. One thing that you let me know was that I guess you tried out for the Boston Red Sox and for the XFL.
Oh, dude. That was like a million years ago.
Was that just scratching an itch?
Well, the Red Sox was a thing where they were called a bunch of us to go in there, which was a really cool experience. Even though I hate the Boston Red Sox as a Yankees fan, but it didn't go. That's about as far as it went. So no worries there. But yeah, the XFL was funny because I played football in college, and then it was just kind of happening. Oh, cool. And we were playing in this like semi-pro league, and I got an invitation to try out there. But that was a pretty interesting experience. Yeah, it's weird. When we were talking about that, I'm like, I was all over the goddamn place from my like early 20s to like early 30s. But I think sometimes when you look back, you're like, wow, all those things kind of help you where you are now. And you gotta be grateful.
Led to where you are.
Yeah. So I think I just gotta be grateful for them.
Yeah. Every single experience. I always say to my kids, like, especially if we're doing something really boring, everything you've done in your life has led you to this moment. And they're just like, oh.
They're like, what do you mean, bro? Yeah.
What is it? Yeah, exactly. So, you've worn a lot of hats, and I wanted to crank all this information to AI and come out with something crazy, but it literally was the hardest because there were so many different variants of what you've done. When I was thrown into the XFL in the Red Sox,
short the system out.
But I did come up with this kind of a cool shot of you, just kind of just jacked up.
I'm going to send this picture to my wife.
Looking beefy.
Yeah, all right. Wow. I like it.
Anyways, kind of hit the dichotomy of what you do. You're in real estate, you're in a restaurant, and then I got one more that I just had to. because you love those French fries.
Eating the fries often. Sorry.
The fries are a little big, but
hey, that's my taco. He's my dog Taco too. So hey, enough. Sorry.
Oh yes, yeah. Thanks for being a guest on the podcast, Taco.
I need those pictures. Man.
I'm sending them. I'm sending them over to you. That wraps it up for us for today. If you want, just let everybody know, how they can follow you.
Yeah. So it's at Kyle Inserra pretty much on every platform, and at Mr. Restaurants on TikTok. And yeah, that's about it. That's where I'm usually on all those platforms. You can get me one way or the other. So yeah.
Well, thanks again, Kyle. Make sure that you follow and subscribe to Kyle's podcast. He's on the Close Monday podcast. He's got the Commercial Real Estate School podcast. Follow him, Mr. Restaurant. Lots of good content on TikTok.
Thanks.
Kyle, it was a ton of fun having you at the lab today. Thanks for joining us. I
appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for the pictures, too.
As always, thanks for joining us in the Local Marketing Lab. This podcast is brought to you by Evocalize. To learn how Evocalize can help you grow your business, visit evocalize.com. If you learned something new from today's episode, don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and follow us on LinkedIn and Facebook at Evocalize. That's EVOCALIZE. And on X at Evocalize Inc. And remember, keep innovating and trying new things. You never know what's going to connect with your audience until you try. And until next time, thanks for listening.